Okay, so today we're going to be talking about mass mole conversions.
Okay, so when we do these, it's very important that we also take what we learned before, which is our molar mass calculations, because these are going to be used to do these conversion problems. So with the idea of moles, grams in molar mass, so everything that we talked about in the last lesson, we can convert between moles and grams unit. And what you have received is this mole island map. This is going to help you figure out what math am I going to do if I'm going from moles to mass or mass to moles. Yes, you are able to use this for the test. Just make sure you don't lose it. So if we are going from mole island to mass island, we are going to multiply the molar mass of the compound involved in the problem. Oppositely, if we're going from mass island to mole island, we're going to divide the molar mass of that compound that we have.
But first things first is note that your answers must have a unit and compound or element following the number. You should never have your numbers, what I like to say, naked. Your number should always have a unit with it, and it should always have a compound that is being involved in the problems. And you'll see more specifically about that in a minute when we do our practice problems. We are going to go ahead and do some of these examples together. So this is how these problems will be structured for you on the homework and on the test. So example number 1, how many moles are in 5.00 grams of KCl, KCl2? That's not CI, that's Cl, okay? Let's see. I'm going to pick a color to underline. We'll do this color right here. Okay. What I'd like to do first on these problems is we're going to circle what we are given, all the information that we're given, and we're going to underline what we're trying to solve for. So what the number in the problem and the unit and compound after that number is what you're always going to be given. So in this problem, you see how we're given 5.00, and then we have grams, and then we have our compound. We're going to circle all of that. This is what we are given. This is the information we're going to need to start off our math. And then the problem says how many moles. That means we're going to solve for moles, so we're going to underline moles. Now that we know what we're starting with and what we are solving for, we can go back to our mole island map and figure out what island we're starting at and what island we're going to. So if we are given grams, we have grams circled, that's mass. So we're going to start at mass island in this problem. So we're starting at mass. And since we underlined moles, we want to solve for moles. We are going to go to mole island on this map. Any questions so far? So now we're good to go ahead and start at math. And the way we always do that is rewrite what we are given, what we circled. So we circled 5.00 grams. Again, abbreviated version of grams is just G, and we have to rewrite our compound, our CaCl2. And whenever we do these conversions, we're always going to multiply with the line because we're going to multiply by a fraction. Since we're going from mass to mole island, we're starting at mass, we're going to mole island. we're going to look at our mole island map. We're starting at mass island. We're going to moles. So following the arrow that goes from mass to moles, one mole is going to be on the top and molar mass is going to be on the bottom. So one mole is on the top and we have molar mass on the bottom. Now we have to solve for our molar mass value. So what we just did up here. Okay. So the compound we have is our CaCl2. So let's go ahead and find the molar mass of that compound. So we're going to find the molar mass of CaCl2. Our first element we have in this compound is calcium. So if we look on the periodic table, calcium has an atomic mass of 40.078. And we have to multiply it by how many calciums we have in the compound. Well, we only have one because there's no number, so it's going to be 1. So we're going to multiply this number by 1 and close parentheses. And again, we get to sum, so we got to move on to our next element, which is chlorine, Cl. And if you look, Cl's atomic mass is 35.453. And we have a number 2 in front of chlorine, well, next to chlorine, so it's going to imply that we have 2 chlorines, so we're going to multiply this number by 2. And you just plug it into your calculator. So we're going to take our 40, we have to do parentheses, our 40.078 times 1, close parentheses, plus open parentheses, 35.453 times 2, since we have 2 of them, and close parentheses. And we get 110.984. And the unit for molar mass is grams/moles. This number here goes on the bottom because our mole island map says when we go from mass to moles, 1 mole is going to be on the top and our molar mass is going to be on the bottom. And since our mole in our units already taken account on here, we're going to add grams. Any questions so far?
Can you stay on that right quick? I'm not done writing that down.
That's okay. I'm not done yet, so. Now you see how we have repeating grams here? That means they cancel, they go away. Whenever you have a repeating unit in your work, cancel it out. Because what we're left with is moles, and that's what we want. So we can go ahead and solve it. And how you would solve it is you're going to multiply the top, divide the bottom. So you're going to take your 5.00. You're going to multiply it by your top. So you're going to multiply 1. And then you're going to divide your bottom. So you're going to divide 110.985. So when you do that on your calculator, you're going to take your 5.00 times 1, which is your top, and then divide it by your 110.985. And your calculator gives you this. So your answer is 0.045. You could round it however you want. That's okay. But remember when you wrote this note here, our answer needs to have a unit, which is moles, since that's what we're solving for. and it needs the compound that's involved, which is CaCl2. And that is your final answer. First thing we're always going to do for these is we're going to circle what we are given and underline what we're trying to solve for. Well, the problem says how many grams are in 2.25 moles of FeCl3. What you're given is going to be the number and then the unit and compound after that. So we are given 2.25 moles of FeCl3. Does that make sense how I know what's given? Just want to make sure everybody knows that. And then we need to underline what we're trying to solve for. Well, it says how many grams, so it's asking us to solve for grams. Since we are starting with moles, we're given moles, we're going to start at mole island. And since we are solving for grams, which is mass, we're going to end at mass island. So now we are good to go ahead and calculate it. So let's go ahead and start doing our math. We're always going to rewrite what we are given. In this case, it is 2.25 moles of FeCl3. And we always want to do that times in a line. So now we have to figure out what goes on the top and what goes on the bottom. Since we're going from mole island to mass island, we're going from mole island to mass island, the arrow that goes from mole to mass. It says molar mass is going to be on the top and 1 mole is going to be on the bottom. So we know 1 mole is going to be on the bottom, so just going to write that. And it tells us molar mass is going to be on the top. So let's go ahead and solve the molar mass of the compound we have, which is FeCl3. One compound at a time, we have to take the sum, so we have to add them all together of the atomic masses. Our first element is Fe. Looking on the periodic table, Fe has an atomic mass of 55.845. And there's no number after Fe, so we're going to assume it's 1. So we have 1 Fe, so we're going to multiply it by 1. And again, we're taking the sum. Our next element we have is chlorine, Cl. And the atomic mass of chlorine is our 35.453. And this number here, this 3 here, tells me there's 3 chlorines. So we're going to multiply that number by 3. And you're just going to go ahead and calculate it. So we're going to open parentheses, our 55.845 times 1, close parentheses, plus open parentheses, 35.453 times 3, close parentheses, we get 162.204. And that number is going to go on the top because our mole island map told me that 1 molar mass is going to be on the top. And remember, since moles is already taken care of on the bottom, we're just going to put grams with it. Any questions so far before I continue? Alrighty. Now remember up here we canceled grams because we had 2 grams. Well, this time we have 2 moles. So we're just going to go ahead and cancel out moles. And we're left with grams, and that's what we want to solve for. So we're good to go ahead and calculate it. Similarly, the one we just did before, we're going to be multiplying the top, divide the bottom. So we're going to take our 2.25. We're going to multiply it by 162.204. And we're going to divide it by 1. So we're going to take our 2.25 times our 1. Oops, that's, whoopsies. There we go. 2.25 times 1.6.204 divided by 1. And we get that. So if we round it a little bit, again, you can round it however you want. I'm not going to require certain rounding. We have 365. And again, we need to include grams. We need to include our units, which is grams, and our compound, which is FeCl3. And that is your final answer. Go ahead and do 2 more examples together. Our next example we have is how many moles are in 20 grams of CO2. So we're going to go ahead and circle what we're given, underline what we're trying to find. Well, we are given our 20 grams of CO2, so let's go ahead and circle that. And we're solving for moles. Since we are given grams, we're starting with grams, that means we're going to start at mass island. And we're solving for moles, that means we're going to end at mole island. So we can go ahead and start doing our math. So we're going to go ahead and rewrite what we're given. 20 grams of CO2. And I know class is going to end soon. And then we are going to go ahead and figure out what's going on the top and what's going on the bottom. Since we're starting at mass, we're going to moles. Starting at mass, going to moles. 1 mole is going to be on the top, and molar mass is going to be on the bottom. And we have to find the molar mass of CO2. So let's go ahead and do that. Our first compound we have is carbon. The atomic mass of carbon is 12.011. And we have 1 of them in the compound, so we're going to multiply that by 1. And our next element is oxygen, which is 15.999. And we have 2 of them in the compound, so we're going to multiply it by 2. And when you plug it in, you get 44.009. So that goes in the bottom. Now, remember, we canceled out grams because we have 2 of them. We canceled out moles because we have 2 of them. Well, we have 2 grams. Let's go ahead and cancel it out. And now we can go ahead and solve that. So we're going to be multiplying the top, divide the bottom. 20 times 1 divided by our 44.09. and we get 0.454. The unit we underline should be the unit in your answer. Well, we underline moles, so it's going to be on our answer. And then our compound we have in our problem, CO2. This is supposed to be 4, my bad. And that's going to be in your answer.
It's asking us how many grams are in 1.087 moles of AlCl3. We got to circle what we're starting with and underline what we're trying to find. Well, we're starting and giving with 1.087 moles of AlCl3, and we're trying to find grams. So with that mole island regard, we're either going to start at mole or grams island. Since we are given moles, we're going to start at mole island. And since we're solving for grams, which we know is mass, we're going to go to mass island. Okay. So now that we know which island we're going to start off and what we're going to go to, we can start doing our math. So we start writing out what we are given. And don't forget that times in a line. Since we're going from mole island to mass island, looking at our mole island map, let me go and zoom out. If we're going from mole island to mass island, that arrow tells me molar mass is on the top and 1 mole is on the bottom. So molar mass is on the top, 1 mole is on the bottom. So we have to find the molar mass of the compound we have, which is AlCl3. So let's go ahead and find the molar mass of that. So our first element we have is aluminum. So looking on the periodic table, the atomic mass of aluminum is 26.982. And we do not have a number after aluminum, so we're going to assume it's 1. So we have 1 aluminum, so we're going to multiply that number by 1. And then our next element is chlorine. The atomic mass of chlorine is our 35.453. We have a number 3 after chlorine, so we have 3 chlorines. So plugging that into our calculator. Open parentheses, 26.982 times 1, close parentheses, plus open parentheses, 35.453 times 3, close parentheses. We get 133.341 grams per mole. And that number is going to go on the top. With grams, since mole's taken care of on the bottom. And now that we see we have 2 moles in our calculation, they're going to cancel. So we're left with grams. That's what we want to solve for. So we're good to go ahead and solve it. And again, we're going to multiply the top, divide the bottom. So we're going to take that 1.87, multiply our 133.341, and then divide it by 1, the bottom. So when we do that, we'll take our 1.87 times our 133.341 divided by 1. We get 249. The unit we underline is grams, so our answer is going to be in grams. And the compound we have is AlCl3. And that is your final answer for that one. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and have you guys do these 2 questions on your own. Go ahead and pause the video so you can go ahead and solve this on your own, and then press play when you solve this. You can check your answers. Alrighty, here are the answers for these questions. And that's it, guys. Thanks.